So this time I'd like to welcome today's guest. His name is Michael Burlotos, and Michael is a former Wall Street guy turned entrepreneur and somewhat of a minimalist. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Roger, for having me. I look forward to sharing my story and chatting a little bit about van life and all the good things that have come out from the lifestyle and just chasing what truly makes me happy.
Cool. I'm glad you're here too. What was the item that you crossed off your list?
So I crossed off living the van life and being nomadic.
Okay.
Um, I've been living as a nomad from June 30th, 2020. Um, and it's crazy that it's been this far and this long. But it has been the most enriching experience of my entire life. And I truly wouldn't trade it for the world.
So what does it mean to live the van life? You said that's what you crossed off. What does that mean to you? What do you find that it means to others that are doing it as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? It's a word that definitely has been, brought up quite a bit, especially within the last 5 years. And unfortunately, this summer, we heard it in kind of a negative
Mm.
aura because of the death of Gabby Petito. But honestly, van life is really a lifestyle, right? And some people are full-time van lifers and others are part-time, but it's essentially choosing to live in your vehicle. And for me that has been a full-time endeavor. I live in a bus, but the bus has its own community, and that's called the bus life. But really it is the van life, and that's what everyone knows the name for. And really it's just a lifestyle that is focused on minimalism, really having what you need and choosing experiences over possessions. And I think that really is the common denominator. And I've spoken and I've met so many different individuals that are either living in an RV or a van life or whatever, and a lot of them are choosing to live in more of this unconventional lifestyle just because of the beauty that comes with it. Having the freedom to travel on wheels and for your home, and excuse me, for the nature to be in your backyard. It truly
Yeah,
is a beautiful, simplistic lifestyle. And of course, you're living in a very minimal square foot
sure.
space, but it really does teach you so many things. It's really taught me to really have what I need and to enjoy those things that I have, and then to just be present with nature, to be present with whoever I'm with or myself. And it's just been an incredible lifestyle that ultimately has given me such a beautiful perspective on life.
And how did you come to the point of crossing this off? How did you come to the point of accepting this lifestyle or moving towards it? What was going on in your life before you made that decision? And how did you come to put that on your list to begin with?
Camping with my family, being in nature growing up definitely planted the seed. And I loved it. Those memories that I have with my family and my cousins were so wonderful. Being able to travel and to just be simplistic and to cook outside and to have fires around and just have real, genuine conversations were really where the seed was planted. And then, of course, that is just becomes a distant memory. And
Mhm.
uh, I always grew up traveling and loving, international travel. Experiences were always a big thing for me. Just like every other student, you graduate college, you're looking at what job pays the most. You want to be in a location that, of course, that you want to be in. And so for me, it was all about capitalizing income and not even worrying about
Mhm.
anything else than just a job and getting a paycheck and paying off my student debt. And, that was my focus. At 23 years old, that was my focus, and I still wouldn't trade it for the world. But um, I immersed myself in, a company called BlackRock, which is the largest money manager in the world. And when you work for a firm like that comes a ton of responsibility, a ton of stress, and more of that head down mentality.
Right.
And nothing, there's no knock towards that, but that was my the system that I was living, right? You wake up, you go
Mhm.
to work, you work out, and you repeat the day over and over again. And yeah, the money was wonderful. And I still, again, wouldn't trade any of it for the world because it has taught it's made me who I am. But ultimately, COVID was what really gave me a
Mm,
different perspective about, what's really important in life. My grandfather passed away in a nursing home, like right when COVID became very much apparent. And, I just remember thinking, what is it ultimately that we're chasing in life? And I had
right.
two friends that were working for Apple that were doing the van life. And I was like, wow, here they are. Here are two of my really good friends working for Apple on the road, and they're enjoying themselves and all of that. You know, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah, sure.
So June 30th, 2020, I left, and I only left with like a 2 week, mindset. Go out, get a taste of the road, and then come back, and then just pick up exactly what I was doing. And Now, I just fell in love with it. Long story short, I just fell in love with the aspect of, at the time it was just in the back of my Jeep. So I was just sleeping in the back of
Oh,
my
wow.
Jeep. I was cooking outside. I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I was just like living. For the first time, I felt that I was living, and I was just jumping in like, say, I remember just like 50-degree water, and I just there was just this rush of sensation that I had never felt before. And it was the thing that really changed my perspective was I was more joyful on the road with very, very little than I was in my beautiful one-bedroom apartment with all of these things that culturally we're taught that we need. And I got the apartment with all the luxury amenities, all the things. I'm like,
Sure.
man, here I am, happier in this lifestyle that I'm living, or overall more joyful. Ultimately, that road trip, I pretty much traveled all through the United States, went all the way up to Alaska, did a ton of trips, all in the back of my Jeep, and then I bought a travel trailer. And then October of last year, or November of last year, I found a bus on Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, wow, this thing is really cool. It's quirky, and I can make this my home. And so that's what I did. I bought it unseen. I sent one of my friends to go pick it up for me, and I promised myself that if I was going to go buy a bus, that I would sell most of my belongings. I sold my car, I sold my trailer, and then in June of this year, I ended up deciding to part ways with BlackRock. And ultimately, it was just I couldn't see myself going back. I was forever changed. And I always had been an entrepreneur at heart, and I really trusted, just creating my own success. And yeah, it may take some time, but ultimately, I wanted to kind of live life on my own terms and not play someone else's game for me. And so that's what I've done. And so that's where I'm at now. And then I went to Tanzania. So when I quit, I wanted to do all the things that I couldn't have done in a corporate job.
Sure.
So originally I was only supposed to go to Tanzania for 15 days because I was still working at BlackRock when I booked it. And then when I quit, I said, you know what? I'm going for 40, and I'm gonna immerse myself, and I'm gonna live there and make the most out of it. And so that's exactly what I did. And now I'm building out another bus to make that my home. So it's a long answer, but I truly don't know how to encapsulate the whole thing.
Sure.
It's just been so much different, so much has led me to where I'm at right now.
So what has been the biggest change in your day-to-day life, right? Of course, the scenery is different. You're not in an office, you're outside, in the woods, but they're and out in nature. But what's the lifestyle change? What's been kind of the biggest challenge you've had in
Yeah.
going from that really super nice apartment to living in a bus?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, and this is probably the answer that I would really warn anyone. The answer to this question is just something that I would make sure that everyone is fully aware of if they do immerse themselves in this lifestyle. And that is it can get challenging. Things are a process. Things like washing your dishes that you could just easily throw it into the dishwasher become a lot more challenging. And taking a shower becomes a lot more challenging. Doing very small tasks that are very mindless that you just do in a normal house involve a lot more effort, a lot more energy, and can really be challenging. But I will say there is beauty in that because for me, it was like, wow, I feel accomplished. All these I call them mini victories, right? Like getting a shower is such a big deal, right? Cooking a nice home cooked meal is such a big deal. And you
Right.
start appreciating the mindless things that you were once doing in a house. are now so appreciated. Finding a nice place to sleep, right? Like I've slept at over 50, 60 different Walmarts. And that's because I do a lot of driving, and Walmarts, they will usually allow RV campers. But when I find a beautiful place that I get to post up and just relax, feels so good. So just learning to roll with that, right?
Mm.
Understanding that, it's gonna be a process at times. But it's just a lack of routine. There is no routine. If you're traveling, and you're on the go, like I work, like I was just telling you before we chatted, like I work at coffee shops, I work at different libraries. I've been to so many different libraries, throughout the United States. And yeah, it can be a beautiful thing, but I'm be the first person to raise my hand and tell you van life can drain you, especially if you're a full
Sure.
timer and we're still working full time. And it can be draining. And so what I like to do, I call them reset days, where I will spend, X amount of dollars for a hotel room or an Airbnb just to reset myself, and just to
Right.
like feel good again. Um, you know, it's so it can be very challenging to navigate through, but then again, it's so incredibly rewarding. And it really end up does becoming a beautiful thing in the end.
How did your family and friends, coworkers, those people that knew you in that other lifestyle, how did they respond to your life changes? And when you came to them and said, "Hey, I'm going to go live in a bus and travel around," what was their response like to that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I remember, November of last year sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table with my
Mm.
family, and I had not actually told them that I bought the bus. Um,
Oof.
and I I sat around the table, and this is right before we're digging into all the good stuff, and I go, "Hey guys, I have something to tell you." And there's just like a moment of silence, and I go, "I bought a home." And like that's believable, right? I was making good money, and it's like, "Oh wow, you bought a home." And I was like, and then I showed them the pictures of the
Oh,
bus.
wow.
They're like, "Oh my God, what?" And I'm so blessed that I have such wonderful, supportive parents that ultimately what they want is for me to be happy. If that means, making some leaps of faith and changing up my life to the way that it looks like now, ultimately they just want me to be happy. And so
Yeah,
I did feel that support. Of course, as lovable having loving parents, they ultimately want the best for you.
sure.
They're going to ask the questions, they're going to make sure you have everything kind of thought out. But overall, I did feel that support from my family. And then friends, I was pretty divided, right? And this is where I always
Mm.
I talk about having, a great community around you that ultimately wants the best for you. Because unfortunately, I think we all have friends or people in our lives that can bring negative energy, or could really maybe not be the best thing for you and for your growth. And I ultimately started to see who was really with me as a friend and who ultimately just had negative things to say. And so, and I did. There was a lot of noise. There was so much noise, especially as you can imagine in the financial world. You're
Sure.
living the total opposite side of the spectrum lifestyle that, again, I remember, especially in college when I was interning at wealth management, like my life was being dressed up in a suit and tie and being presentable and how I looked and all that. And here I am, like, if I were to show you some of the pictures, especially when I was in Alaska and totally off grid, man, I definitely was not the cleanest kept person. But it's definitely an opposite side of the spectrum lifestyle. And I did feel that support from my managers, and to this day, I had, I can only say such amazing things about the people that I worked with. But ultimately, I just couldn't see myself going back. And
Right.
then, I have a girlfriend, and so it was working through that and how we could still, continue to push each other to live our dreams. And she had an in-person job, so that was kind of troubling to navigate through. But overall, like I had really supportive people. Of course, there is the noise, but it's really made me think about who's there for me. Because of that, my circle has gotten smaller, and I don't expect everyone to understand, right? But
Yep.
ultimately, and this is what I was sharing on my Instagram yesterday, like, you know, one of the things that's really important for me is that the day that I die, the day that my name is called, I want to live a life that is for me. And I don't want to listen to the noise, because the day that I start listening to what other people think is best for me, that's when I start losing my identity, my integrity, and the things that make me me. No one understands my story. No one understands my vision and what I want for the future. And that goes for everyone else, right? That
Sure.
everyone else,
Oh yeah.
it's very easy to listen, and I think everyone should get perspective, right? And I think getting constructive criticism and hearing, having an open mind and open ear is really important, but ultimately the decision should be up to you. And that's really made me trust my intuition and my gut throughout the way, and it's just made me confident in my own decisions, that ultimately all of this change in my life is because of me, and I know that'll only serve me better for the future.
Yeah, I didn't make quite as drastic change as you did, probably, to the people around you. Mine was a little bit slower, but in 2020, in December 2020, I had a cardiac event, I'll call it. And between that and being quarantined and all those things, just thinking about who I am and what I wanted to be known for, the same things you were talking about, I changed my Facebook status to head crosser off of my bucket list, and just to kind of see, like, what were people paying attention, right? And then I changed it on LinkedIn from my regular everyday job to my job was crossing things off my bucket list. And I really wanted to see how, people, if people would notice, for one, and then also what was going to be their reaction to that. I wasn't changing jobs, but I was changing
Yeah,
who I wanted people to see me as.
yeah.
And so I think it's a lot of us are going, a lot of people right now are going through these same kind of issues that we're talking about today. What do you think was the biggest misconception those people had about the bus van life, before you started living it and showing them what it was like?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think people associate the van life, that culture with someone that's just really doesn't have a whole lot going on. That's someone who
Mm.
wants to chill and casually float through life. And, um, you know, I think that number one, I heard the term hippie being thrown around. Um, and honestly, I don't see that as like a negative thing, right? I think
Sure.
the secret to life is life itself, and just experiencing the true joys that come with just being a human, and just being alive and appreciating just this gift, right? And for me, I've slowed down my life. Like, I've definitely have slowed down my life from what it was before. And I still am guilty of this. I have a lot of pressure on myself right now because of what I've left. The day that I remember quitting essentially on my 26th birthday, and that's kind of when insurance off the parents goes away, and that's the way that I quit then, and I've had now just I've made a lot of decisions that ultimately have been wow. Like right now, I don't have a car. Like I'm sharing my car with I have two buses right now. I'm sharing a car with my mom right now, and um, the biggest misconception is just what are you doing with your life, right? Like
Mm.
you're 26 years old, you're living in a school bus, you're traveling, and I would just say to those people, man, I'm just living. Like
Right.
I'm living as if my day is called tomorrow, within reason, right? And obviously we still have to make a living, we still have to provide. But at 26 years old, I feel like I'm in a really good I have a really good like I feel like I have a really good head on my shoulder. I've, essentially put a lot of pressure on myself because of what I've left in the six-figure income and all the things that once were really, really stable for my life. And but ultimately, I really understand my values and what I want for my future. And so I'm just trying to create that life, um, for myself, and again, we all have to make a living, but I think success is different measurables, right? Good mental
Right.
health, good time with the family, having the ability to travel, having work with purpose, having a job that impacts other people in a positive way. And before, for me, it was all about the prestigious job. It was all about the high income, and that was my focus. And now I'm just like, man, I want to have a little bit of everything, and of just a whole piece of the pie. I want a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I think there's this, we have a short uh memory span here in the United States, where the really sedimentary suburban lifestyle didn't come around until after World War II. Late 40s, early 50s is when we really started settling in these little burgs outside of the center of town. And before that, you had people, lots of people that had traveling jobs, people that made tools and would go to farms and help farmers out, and they travel from farm to farm and say, hey, that was common. Salespeople were
Yeah.
commonly doing what you're doing. And so it just shocks me that like there's this pushback to the van life that pretty much most of the people in the country used to live that way. They did not live in the suburbs like we do now. And so I think it's kind of a lost art form, a lost lifestyle, but it's not new in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and I think people like, well, again, like exactly what you're saying. Like, 20 years ago, people were living in a van. By the way, there's this like meme that I see every time that how normalized it's become. Where you're living in a van 20 years ago, and it's like, man, this person,
Yeah.
what's going on? I mean,
The old Chris
now
Farley.
living in a van is like the cool thing. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
whole hashtag movement, the hashtag the van life. You see nomad land. Like again, and I think it's people wanting that freedom. What
Sure.
van life gives you is a lot more freedom than a lot of other lifestyles. Um, and it gives you that, like to an extent, not, and I think, on the social media, it sometimes gets overblown, like van life is the greatest thing ever. And like it is incredibly, incredibly challenging. And I know on
Right.
my platform, I do my best to show the good, the bad. I talk about kind of the negative things that come with it. Like I said, I slept at over 50 different Walmart last year. And as much as I've slept in beautiful locations, it's definitely not all just roses, and it's definitely can be hard.
So let's talk about the bus a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, where did you get advice from, or how did you know how to build out that first bus, or did you buy it, all the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
pre-made? Explain that
So,
process.
yeah, so when I bought the bus, that was actually one of the most attractive things about the purchase was it had a really good foundation. It wasn't completely
Mhm.
to the point that I would want it to, but some of the more challenging things that were done, like the electrical, the solar, things that I had no understandable grasp on how to really create or do was completed. And I knew that coming home, I had probably about 3 months of really getting 3 months of building it out to the way that I had wanted to. Like I said, really great foundation, but not at the point where I was comfortable living in it full time. And
Mhm.
so with the time that I had spent at home during the holidays, I really tapped on my wonderful friends that have helped me. My dad, again, close friends that have different expertise in different areas, and then just learning, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of forums,
Mhm.
Reddit, a lot of just, again, like you just have to do the work. And the one of the beautiful things about the community is how helpful everyone is and just how close knit everyone is. And so, believe it or not, there is a whole community behind this movement, even just the bus life. I'm in many Facebook groups where I've asked many questions, and everyone is just so helpful. And I outsourced a few things too, like putting water tanks on the undercarriage of the
Mhm.
bus. Like that's something that I just didn't have the capacity to do. It was just
Right.
worth my headache. And luckily, I was blessed enough to have, an income that could support kind of outsourcing that. But some of the more challenging things I outsourced. And like I said, I'm building out another bus. So this bus I bought with literally just the hardwood floors. And so now I am working together with one of my buddies who's a contractor and very, very talented. And we're learning to, I mean, he's helping me learn, I'm paying him to build me out this other bus. So it really just depends on how bad you want it, right? And if
Right.
you're willing to move around pieces in your life. And of course, time is valuable, right? It takes time to go through it. So if I would just say if anyone is interested in this lifestyle, just really know that the build process is also a beautiful thing as well. Like a lot of people just want to build it out and get on the road. I've talked to so many people who just really enjoy the building process. They've learned so much. And it actually makes when you're on the road that much more rewarding, knowing how much
Sure.
sweat equity you put into building it. And it's just literally you built this, right? The home of your dreams, you did that. And
Right. How many choices did you have in that luxury apartment? Right. How many choices do you have when you go to one of these cookie cutter um, neighborhoods out in the suburbs of the house? There are some things that you can pick and choose, but the reality is that you're getting whatever the contractor or the builder, specs out at a certain
Yep,
price. And
exactly.
it's not customizing to what you want or your needs.
Exactly.
So that's a pretty cool thing that gets to happen during this.
Yeah.
I mean, so what are some of the things that you're going to change from the first bus to the second bus? You obviously have been in the first bus for a while and
Yeah.
and have found out some of the things that might make you more comfortable. What are some of those things that you're to change?
Yeah. So the number one thing is it's diesel. So it has pretty much the most coveted engine within the schooling community, a 7.3 power stroke diesel engine with only 90,000 miles. And so
Wow.
it hopefully still has a ton of life left. And I saw that as a huge, just huge opportunity. If I were to buy a vehicle, diesel is night and day for power. The other one is a gas engine. It only has 120,000, but just having it be diesel is a huge benefit. Number one. Number two, it's a couple feet longer, so
Okay.
there's a little bit more space. This one's about 25 feet long. The other one's 22 feet long. So I have a little bit more living space. And so what I'm going to do with that living space that I've learned is because I'm working so much, I didn't really have a designated desk area in my prior bus. With this bus, I'm going to be doing like an all-in-one function. So I'm going to have a couch that turns into a seat, that turns into a desk. And then I'm going to have a tile bathroom, a full-on bathroom. In my
Mhm.
other bus, I did have a nature's composting toilet, which served me beautifully. But I had to shower outside, so I
Right.
had a kitchen sink that I could take outdoor showers, and then also I was showering at Planet Fitness. So in this one, I'm going to have a full-on decked out bathroom. I'm going to have lithium batteries, so I'll be able to be more off grid. So again, just learning about what didn't really work for me, and then because I'm going to be full timing this for probably a little while, um, I know what I need, right? And that's to have like a good electrical source, to have AC. The other bus you can totally live in, but it just was uncomfortable at times, especially in the summer heat and all that stuff. Like it was very much, that's what I was saying. It was very much a challenge. So now I'm just trying to make the whole thing a little bit easier for me.
So you talked about having a girlfriend. And so is there a third bus like in the DreamWorks? Is there a Barbie dream bus down the road where you would do it together, or is this something like she's like, okay, you go do that, get that out of your system, and come back and
So
fun.
yeah, and I'm just so blessed that I have such a wonderful girl in my life. I would say I'm probably closing the book on more long-term travel and more get up and go. With this bus, it's going to be more stationary, right? Finding a place where I can really immerse myself for a longer period of time and just enjoy being in the bus and being more stationary. Where before it was just too much on the go. Like I was driving all the time. It was exhausting. And she had an in-person job. She would fly to places around
Mhm.
the country. But now she lives in Colorado. So, being in Denver, finding a place to stay is going to be, something I'm really looking forward to. But probably definitely more stationary. And one thing I want to just touch on real quick is this has been, a lot of people are like, oh man, you probably have, it costs so much money, all this, but like another big bonus of being in this lifestyle is it is an investment. Okay. Especially with the market that we're in now, I'm going to make money when I sell this bus.
I think that's
I,
absolutely crazy. I think that's
I
crazy.
I know. And again, I'm not paying rent. I'm not paying all these crazy miscellaneous charges
Right.
like, a phone, or excuse me, internet bill, pest control, parking, all these things that I was being charged in. And essentially, if I can get this second bus completed, my biggest expense, my biggest house expense then becomes gasoline. And for that it's a huge investment and it can be an upfront, but once you like, if you're able to live in it, there's your home.
Mhm.
It becomes something that you're actually able to save money in the long run.
There's somebody out there listening to us right now and thinking of taking on this lifestyle. What would be your most invaluable piece of advice that you think you could give them today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say number one, expect the unexpected.
Mm.
Expect there to be challenges. Expect times where you're like, what the F am I doing? Am I really doing this? There are going to be so many hiccups. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be miscellaneous bills that come up. But ultimately, if you overcome those obstacles, it will make the journey and the experience that much more rewarding. You will learn so much about what you are capable of and what you can set your mind to. You know, when it's a beautiful thing now when I'm able to share the story to just say how far I've come, because it's a journey. It's not just about getting in the back of your van or your bus and just driving to awesome locations. It's an experience.
Right.
And again,
Problem solving. There's
problem
problem. Yeah. Which I think
learning
is
how to pivot. Again, I so many times where just stuff has gone wrong that all I have to do is just smile and say, okay, I guess this is what I'm going through today, and I'm just gonna have to make the most out of it. But in those moments, you just really find the beauty.
sure. What is the next thing you want to cross off your bucket list? Not the new bus, but what's the next thing?
Ooh. I want to inspire a lot of people.
Hmm.
I want to be the person that Michael Burlotos needed 2 years ago, where I thought my whole life was about income and being successful from the outside, but ultimately happiness is everything. And feeling fulfilled and being joyful is what I believe we're all searching for as humans. And I'm not going to say that bus life and van life has solved that. I still
Right.
obviously struggle. But I think there's a lot of people that, again, we just go through the motions, right? It's just,
Mhm.
we do this hamster on the wheel lifestyle, and we're just doing things because so and so wants me to do this and because it's the right thing to do from the outside. I would just say ultimately, who cares, right? This is if you're
Right.
ultimately wanting this and you think that this is what's going to, lead you to having an overall sense of joy, freaking do it. It's changed my life. I have so many beautiful experiences to share, storytelling, that again, so many stories of such good people that have amazing, acts of kindness that has happened to me on the road. And I just want to inspire other people, because I was guilty of all of those things. And I feel like I have now a platform to do so. And, from, just hearing this, it seriously makes my day when someone messages me and says, hey man, I just quit my job or all this. But I'm not saying for people to quit their job. I just want people to understand what they're chasing in life.
Sure.
And if that's the thing that ultimately makes you happy, then freaking heck yeah, I'll cheerlead you on throughout the whole way. But if it is something that you're struggling with, I'll be the first person to raise my hand and say, hey, let's talk.
So you talked about the fact that you left this Wall Street lifestyle, and so now what are you doing for money to make it and to provide for this
Yeah.
lifestyle that you lead?
So, I've always been very intentional with my personal finances. I've always been investing. I was always allocating money to retirement since the day that I started working. I'm very intentional with my finances, and that's another reason why I love the minimalistic lifestyle is because I have what I need. I don't try
Mhm.
to, buy things to impress other people or to, just buy things just for, to buy. So I'm investing. I have a lot of passive investments in the markets and whatnot that have served me well. And right now, that's enabled me to kind of bet on myself. I talked about being an entrepreneur and kind of seeing where that takes me. So I'm essentially building a platform with my partner that I actually met on the road, and we're
Huh.
essentially building a virtual. We're building a platform, and it's essentially a virtual incubator to help people launch their business or to find a business that they want to work for. It's incredible the ethos and just he has a whole story for himself. He's the founder and CEO, and I've come alongside of him to try to build this thing up and to get it out there to the public. And right now I'm all in on that. And it's been a great experience to be in like a startup culture, and to be building this from the ground up. I've learned so much. I'm talking to people every day, which is something that I love to do. I'm an extrovert at heart. And at BlackRock, I was in the technology sector. I didn't really have that luxury.
Right.
So I've learned a lot about myself. Again, I'm able to impact people that I never would have had the exposure to impact. And for right now, it's been a beautiful experience that I hope will eventually, really start to gain momentum. And the company is called Wico Online. So, like I said, it's an online platform that's in beta right now. So there's a lot of technology involved, and so we're going through a lot of learning curves and a lot of things that Again, it's with having a small
Sure.
team, it's very hard to, make sure we're allocating our resources right. But it's been a great experience.
Awesome. And so, as we close out, where can people find more information about you, follow your journeys in your van, and also get more information about Wico?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram as Wandering Bus Dude. That's WA. Some people put WO, but it is Wandering Bus Dude. And I like to do a lot of storytelling on that platform. I am building out another bus, like I was saying. So right now, I'm not traveling. I'm kind of fully focused on the online platform of Wico and then building out the second bus. So if you want to see a shuttle bus turn into one of the most amazing, beautiful homes, definitely come check it out on my Instagram. If I inspired you in some way, or I struck a chord in some aspect of your life, please reach out to me. That means the absolute world to me when I have a listener or someone that's gone through my social media that has tapped on my shoulder and said, "Hey, man, you really touched me, and this hit home." I really appreciate that. And then with Wico, we have our own Instagram, but you can check us out on wico.online. And then if you want to learn about Wico, you can also find that out. You can find out more about it through my own personal Instagram of Wandering Busted.
Awesome. I will put all those links in the show
Great.
notes so folks can find those very easily and click and follow you and the company. I'm Michael. I wish you all the success in the world. I think that we're living in a time where this kind of thing, it's not, there's more people out there that are wanting to do this kind of stuff than we think. And so I appreciate you taking the time to share your story today.
Yeah, Roger, it was such a pleasure, man. I hopefully when I get out in Washington, maybe we'll grab some drinks. I'll be out there soon, but yeah, it was a pleasure, and
Awesome.
I'm so glad we can reach people. That's just what it's all about.
Thanks for being here.
All right, man. Take care. Have a great one.